Planeswalker card. A fixture of Magic the Gathering. These snowballing card advantage engines that take over the game the longer they sit and play are notorious for being arguably the strongest card type ever. Anyone who's ever sat across from a Planeswalker that they couldn't immediately answer can confirm this. You are probably thinking back to several such moments yourself right now. But not every Planeswalker card is created equally. Some Planeswalker cards just suck. Flat suck. No, seriously, for every Planeswalker that's a broken, format warping design mistake, there's another Planeswalker that would be straight up embarrassing to be caught casting. And I don't mean the Planeswalkers from those introductory Planeswalker decks, remember those? Those were intended to be weak. Or those uncommon Planeswalkers that began in War of the Spark. No, I mean that within the epic, ultimate, crack pack, goal, rare, and mythic Planeswalkers, there are some absolute stink burgers. Planeswalkers like Tibalt. You know Tibalt. The infamously terrible 2-mana Planeswalker that makes all other 2-mana Planeswalkers look like the cardboard embodiment of the Chad meme. Everyone knows that Tibalt is terrible, but Tibalt isn't the only terrible Planeswalker in Magic history. So join me, won't you, on a journey through the worst that the Planeswalker card type has to offer. I've compiled a list of the top 5, or should I say, bottom 5 worst Planeswalkers not named Tibalt of all time. Yes, I'm excluding OG Tibalt from the list because, come on, he's like the banding of Planeswalkers. It doesn't need to be said. I'm also excluding all the Planeswalkers from those Planeswalker decks because Wizards of the Coast even admitted that they were essentially designed to be bad so that they would never be standard relevant despite being standard legal. Gee, I wonder why they stopped making that product. I'm also excluding Planeswalkers printed at a low rarity, as well as any design to be played as a deck's commander. However, if a Planeswalker is bad and constructed and limited, but good in the 99 of a commander deck, such as Sorin Markov or Teferi, Master of Time, it gets a pass. After all, I want to talk about the worst Planeswalkers ever, ones that can't even cut it in Commander. How bad do you have to be to not even cut it in Commander? Well, so with all that being said, let's get into it. Brace yourself, it's about to get ugly. But first, are you looking for one of the best storage solutions for your cube or an organizer and storage system for your myriad commander decks? How about just some resealable card packs adorned with awesome artwork, including art by some of your favorite Magic the Gathering artists? Well then let me introduce you to Cubeamajigs and Podamajigs, sponsor of this video. Cubeamajigs are reusable, resealable packs for Magic the Gathering cards, as well as other standard-sized gaming cards. They're essentially plastic booster packs that hold 15 sleeve cards and have a flap that opens and closes so that it can be used and reused as a kind of booster pack wrapper. But Cubeamajigs resealable booster packs aren't just for cube lovers. I use these for my Jumpstart packs, where I've placed a Jumpstart half deck in each Cubeamajig pack and can thus get endless and replayable games of Jumpstart, all thanks to Cubeamajigs. Featuring artwork from many beloved Magic the Gathering artists, Cubeamajigs are the perfect way to bring personality and function to your Magic the Gathering cube, or just a fantastic way to keep your sideboards on the side, or your token packs packed separately. And with Podamajigs, you have the perfect storage option for your 360, 450, or even 540 card cube, with room for lands, tokens, and more. Podamajigs are durable, heavy-duty storage boxes, with an interior tray designed to hold cards, dice, tokens, or whatever else you can think of. Each box has stunning artwork from such names as Tyler Walpole, Livia Prima, Jason Engel, and so many more. And the custom insert is compatible with Cubeamajigs, making it the perfect storage solution for Magic cubes. The tray can fit a 540 cube comfortably and still have room for basic lands, dice, and tokens. Using the Podamajig to store your cube is like building your own premium boxed game experience that you can pull off the shelf and play anytime. Ultimately, the Podamajig storage pod stores 1,000 cards, or just use them for commander decks, as you can hold 9 double-sleeved EDH decks in here, plus still have room for tokens. So check out the links provided to Hit Point Press, the seller of Podamajigs and Cubeamajigs, linked in this video's description, and thank you Cubeamajigs and Podamajigs for sponsoring this video. The first of the worst, though not the worst of the worst, planeswalkers in Magic history is Jace, Living Guild Pact. Jace wasn't just bad at his job as the Living Guild Pact, his card, the Living Guild Pact, was bad as a card. That's because this Jace asks the bold question, what if a planeswalker didn't take over the game, or do much of anything at all for that matter? At 2 generic and 2 blue mana for a 5 loyalty planeswalker, hailing from the plane of Core Set M15, Living Guild Pact Jace might look a lot like a reasonably ordinary planeswalker at first glance. Tick up for some card advantage, tick down for removal, and ultimate to win the game. Except that's not quite what this guy does. Jace the Living Guild Pact's +1 ability says, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one into your graveyard. No, don't put the other one in your hand. Leave that right there on the top of your deck. Judge! My opponent expected Jace the Living Guild Pact to do something useful. So no, Jace's +1 is not card advantage. It's barely card selection, since seeing 2 bad cards on the top of your library still means you have to draw one of them next turn. Or just as bad, if both cards on the top of your library are good, tough luck, sucker, because one of them has to go in the bin. Jace's +1 ability is one of the least useful uptick abilities in the history of planeswalkers. Fortunately for him, his -3 ability is a little bit better, bouncing any non-land permanent. But that's not much better, and especially not when you take into consideration that it costs him more than half of his starting loyalty to do so. The only redeeming quality that Jace has is he starts at a pretty high loyalty the turn he comes down. A 4-mana planeswalker that ticks up to 6 loyalty after a single activation is enough that combat damage will take a long time to actually take him off the field, especially if you have blockers or removal. On the other hand, why should your opponent care if you have a Jace in play? It only takes an average of 1 damage a turn to keep Jace away from his ultimate ability. Sure, if you do manage to get his ultimate, being the only player with cards in hand will probably win you the game. But be honest, do you really think you're going to get that far? And again, from a lore perspective, it's actually hilarious how canonically accurate this planeswalker card is. Jace hated being the Living Guild Pact and was terrible at doing his job. So it only makes sense that the Guild Pact Jace card is terrible. It's gonna drag its feet during a game of Magic as much as Jace dragged his feet while he was in a leadership role on Ravnica. So if that synchronicity with the story lore was what Wizards of the Coast intended to do with this card, then hats off to them. They knocked it out of the park. The next planeswalker on our list might seem more useful than Jace. But, well, first of all, that's not exactly a high bar. And second, don't be fooled. She does far less than meets the eye. It's Watley, Radiant Champion. 4-mana planeswalker from Rivals of Ixalan in Selesnya colors that is essentially the epitome of a win more card. Starting at 3 loyalty when she enters play, Watley's +1 ability gives her an additional loyalty counter for each creature you control. Her -1 ability gives a creature +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. Noticing a theme here? As is true for most planeswalkers, Watley's ultimate ability is her most useful one. For -8, she gives you a Glimpse of Nature emblem, providing a fresh card every time a creature enters on your side of the field. But don't get too excited. You should never evaluate a planeswalker card based on how good said card's ultimate ability is. The problem with Watley is she doesn't do anything if you don't already have creatures in play, since all of her abilities require you to have creatures. And even when you do have creatures in play, she's not that useful. She can kind of maybe sort of break board stalls, but ticking down to grow a creature when you already have a lot of creatures in play is not that exciting. Ticking up to only gain loyalty is also not too exciting. True, with 4 creatures in play, you can ultimate her the turn after she comes down. But if you have 4 or more creatures in play, why do you need to spend 4 mana on a planeswalker that might not survive till your next turn? And even if she does survive, if you already have 4 creatures in play, how many more creatures are you realistically going to have in hand to make use of her emblem? Is your hand some kind of creature clown car? Putting a 4-mana Planeswalker in your deck that only makes your board bigger, if you already have a big board, is a terrible use of mana and space in your deck. You're better off playing a real Anthem effect, or some mass removal to clear the way for your creatures to attack. Heck, even something that gives your creatures flying or trample would be more useful than whatever it is Watley thinks she's bringing to the table. The third worst Planeswalker of all time, that's not named Tybalt, is both the newest Planeswalker on our list and also the second Planeswalker on the list to have living in the name. It's almost like a Planeswalker whose primary defining feature is that they're alive probably isn't going to bring much else to the table. But I digress. Number 3 on the list is Karn, Living Legacy, a 4-mana colorless Planeswalker from Dominaria United with 4 starting loyalty. Karn ticks up to make a Power Stone. You know, the consolation prize that you give an opponent after a Cityscape Leveler trigger. And of course, the Power Stone enters tapped because it would just be too good if your 4-mana Planeswalker provided actual ramp, right? Right? Apparently. Karn's -1 ability is card advantage, but at a hefty price. Pay any amount of mana, look at that many cards from the top of your library, then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So you can use the Power Stone Karn provides to help you pay for this ability, but drawing a single card at the cost of both loyalty and mana is a steep price to pay for a Planeswalker that also has no way of protecting itself. You cannot use this ability if you curve into Karn on turn 4, because again, it costs mana. Even if you're lucky enough for Karn to live until your next turn, you're paying mana to use this ability, making it harder to cast the card you get with it. Or, you know, maybe just put a Planeswalker in your deck that doesn't make you pay mana to use its abilities. You know, like how literally every other Planeswalker in Magic the Gathering works. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills looking at this card. Karn, Living Legacy's ultimate isn't even that impressive. For -7 loyalty, all your artifacts in play turn into dinky little pingers. That's my reward for casting and then protecting Karn for 3 whole turns? Honestly, it's not the end of the world that this Karn is such a dud, because every other Karn Planeswalker before this one has been pretty sweet. From the 7-mana modern nightmare known as Karn Pantsless, Karn Liberated, to the solid standard and cube card, Karn with Pants, to the hideously broken Karn the Great Creator. So yeah, I guess it was probably about time that Karn received a certified stinker. Speaking of stinky Planeswalkers, PU, number 2 on this list is precisely that. Number 2 on our list is Chad, Champion of Justice. Gideon, Champion of Justice. Kithian, Champion of Justice. Whatever you want to call him. He's 4 mana for a 4 loyalty white Planeswalker from Gatecrash. Gideon is sort of like a worse version of Watley. Gideon's +1 ability puts a loyalty counter on him for each creature your opponents control. But of course, if your opponents control creatures, they can likely remove that loyalty just as quickly as you add it. Gideon's 0 ability is a classic Gideon 0 ability. He becomes a big, strong creature with indestructible. Except, well, he's only as big as the number of loyalty counters on him, so again, your opponents probably have creatures and all that. And of course, the creme de la creme of unachievable ultimates, -15, and your Gideon, Champion of Justice, exiles all other permanents. Nothing about this Planeswalker works well with itself. He's only good if he has a lot of loyalty, but can only gain loyalty if your opponent is capable of attacking him. Once you have loyalty, you can clear away everything besides Gideon, but then he has 15 less loyalty to work with, and he can't regain that loyalty very quickly because, whoops, someone exiled all your opponent's creatures. Gideon was the Planeswalker included in the Silver Quill Commander Precon, presumably to give players who bought that Precon a very easy card to remove when they start swapping in upgrades for their deck. Like, sure, Gideon is more likely to tick up quickly in a 4-player game of Commander, but also Planeswalkers are just worse in Commander, because 3 times as many opponents means 3 times as many players to attack your Planeswalker. Speaking of Planeswalkers and Commander, if you've ever wondered what Planeswalkers as a Commander might look like, be sure to check out my episode of Shuffle Up and Play, where I play Planeswalkers as Commanders, with Planeswalkers playing Commanders.
I'm gonna play stupid sexier Tybalt.
What?
There is no such
More
thing.
Tybalts?
Look at him. Look at he's
How is that sexier than?
Why so many Tybalts?
Come on.
Because this one looks like he could be in a K-pop band.
I don't.
No.
Despite the fact that I was playing Oops All Tybalt's the Commander deck in that episode, it actually ended up being one of the most fun games I've had in a long while, so linked in the video description below. Gideon Champion of Justice was the second iteration of a Gideon Planeswalker card after the original Gideon Jura, so I guess they were still feeling out the limits of the whole Planeswalkers that become a creature design space. The Gideons before and after Gideon Champion of Justice, Jura, and Ally of Zendikar, as well as Kytheon, the creature that becomes a planeswalker that becomes a creature, were all spectacular examples of the design done right. Gideon Champion of Justice, on the other hand, not so much. And it is definitely one of, but not the worst planeswalker ever made. To whom does that honor go? As bad as Gideon Champion of Justice is, there's actually one planeswalker who's even worse, aside from Tybalt, of course. One of the worst planeswalkers ever made, who's not Tybalt, and certainly the worst planeswalker on this list, who's not Tybalt, is Shandra Ablaze. A 6 mana, 5 loyalty red planeswalker from original Zendikar with not one but two impressively bad abilities. First, she ticks up a single loyalty to discard a card. If a red card is discarded this way, Shandra deals 4 damage to any target. If Jace, the Living Guild Pact, isn't card advantage, then Shandra Ablaze is even worse. Tick up to discard a card, and you don't even deal damage unless that card is red? You can't even convert extra lands into damage? You have to get rid of your spells? And remember, she cost you 6 mana, so by the time you cast her, you probably don't have many other cards left over at all, let alone spells. Best case scenario is you tick her up when you are empty-handed, but that's not even really true because then you spent 6 mana on a planeswalker that isn't doing anything, and not quote-unquote nothing in the proverbial sense, but literally, she does nothing. Sorry, my doctor says I need to stop getting so worked up over pieces of cardboard. Let's take a look at her second ability. Surely it's good enough to make up for how bad the +1 is. Let's see. Each player discards their hand, then draws 3 cards. Oh, okay, so you go hellbent off of her first ability, but it's worth it because you get to draw 3 cards without discarding anything. That's not so bad. Wait, each player? Your opponents get to draw 3 cards too? Why would anyone want to play with this card? It's 6 mana. It would still be awful at 4 mana. Why is it 6 mana? Sorry, doctor, I just can't help it. Sure, the ultimate on Shandra is pretty strong if you get there. -7, cast all the red instants and sorceries from your graveyard without paying their mana cost. Shandra Ablaze did her best to help stock your graveyard with good cards, discarding them to her +1 ability. But wouldn't you rather just spend 2 more mana and overload a Mizzix Mastery and then get that effect right away and cast all the other colors of spells in your graveyards too? So to be fair, Planeswalker cards had only been around for about 2 years when Shandra Ablaze was printed. So much like with Gideon Design Space, Wizards R&D was clearly still experimenting with Planeswalkers as a whole. Shandra Ablaze was only the 12th Planeswalker ever printed, and only the 2nd mono-red Planeswalker ever. And it's not like her predecessor, Chandra Nalaar, was particularly impressive. Still, Shandra Ablaze was bad even by the standards of her time. Like, Jace the Mind Sculptor was printed the very next set. One of the best Planeswalkers ever, and certainly the best Planeswalker printed in the first decade or so of Planeswalker history, immediately following a Planeswalker so bad that we're still talking about her 15 years later. Shandra Ablaze is everything you don't want in a Planeswalker. She's mana intensive, doesn't improve your board position, and her best non-ultimate ability helps your opponent just as much as it benefits you. The bar isn't that high for a Planeswalker to be at least a reasonable threat, but somehow Shandra walks headfirst into it. Ow. And there you have it, the worst that Planeswalkers have to offer, though maybe you think I omitted one from this list. Let me know in the comments below who you think is one of the worst Planeswalker cards and why. And hey, looking for some awesome Magic gameplay? Well, I shuffle up and play with Corey Baumeister, Brad Nelson, and Emma Partlow as we draft and play a Peasant Cube in one of the most fun episodes of Shuffle Up and Play yet. So if you haven't seen it, you should check it out, linked in this video's description. And speaking of Cube, Thanks again to Cubeamajigs and Podamajigs for sponsoring this video. Store your cube or commander decks in these awesome Podamajigs, or just check out the Cubeamajigs resealable packs. You can store up to 9 double-sleeved EDH decks in a Podamajigs, or even up to a 540-card cube, and also have room for lands, tokens, and so much more. These are durable and adorned with art from some of your favorite Magic artists. And of course, they also hold Cubeamajigs, the resealable cube packs that can also be used for tokens or just keeping your sideboard or dice in. Links to ordering in this video's description, and thanks again for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
Pro players play Commander. I have brought here 3 esteemed and established pro players. I went through social media for the receipts. I have built each of you a Commander deck that I think you're gonna love and enjoy.
I am Cedric Phillips. I'm Patrick Sullivan.
My name is Jim Davis.
Done
I know
to
he's
you.
falling apart over here.
Just doesn't know what the cards do.
You can
I'll
only
take
get
that one.
Minsk and Boo, but
That's-
not
that's
Boo.
the- I'll take
Just
the
want to be
Planeswalker.
clear that you're getting
The
Minsk
red-green
and
Planeswalker.
Boo.
Council's Judgment? What if I just named Rock?
Okay.
he's gonna.
Do you want to do that over? We will, right, guys?
This is so made up.
This is this is not silver border.
I feel like this is I'm being punked basically.